Most drivers assume fuel use depends mainly on the car, its engine, size, or design. What often goes unnoticed is how much everyday driving habits shape it. In Japan, where fuel efficiency has long been a priority, drivers developed a simple method to reduce unnecessary fuel use through small adjustments. Each time the car speeds up or slows down, fuel is used, and over time, those patterns add up. In this video, I'll walk you through 14 simple habits that form this approach, starting with one most drivers don't even notice. Habit number 14. The last-second braking habit. You are approaching a traffic light. It turns red, and only then does your foot move from the accelerator to the brake. This reaction feels normal, but it creates a repeated cycle that affects fuel use more than most drivers realize. Each time the car builds speed, fuel is used to create motion. When braking happens suddenly, that motion is lost. A few moments later, the engine has to use fuel again to rebuild it. This pattern continues throughout everyday driving. Research on driving behavior shows that frequent braking and acceleration cycles are one of the main reasons fuel consumption increases, even when overall speed remains similar. A different approach begins slightly earlier. Instead of reacting at the last moment, you begin to notice what is happening further ahead. Traffic signals, slowing vehicles, or changes in flow. By easing off the accelerator sooner, the car can slow down naturally. In many situations, traffic starts moving again before a full stop is required. The vehicle continues rolling instead of stopping completely, which reduces the need to rebuild momentum. This is not about driving differently in a major way. It is about adjusting the timing of your response. That small shift reduces repeated energy loss and supports smoother, more efficient movement. Habit number 13. The speed fluctuation pattern. On a clear road, it might seem like speed is consistent, but if you pay attention closely, there are constant small adjustments, slightly pressing the accelerator, then easing off again. Each of these small changes asks the engine for more fuel. Even if the difference in speed feels minor, over a longer drive, this pattern becomes continuous. Instead of focusing on exact speed, the goal becomes steadiness. Let the car move naturally, without correcting every small change. A slight drop in speed is often less costly than forcing the car to hold a fixed number. With fewer interruptions, the engine settles into a smoother rhythm. The drive feels more relaxed, and the demand for fuel becomes more stable. Habit number 12. Overly gentle acceleration. Misunderstanding. There is a common habit of accelerating very slowly, with the idea that less pressure on the pedal always saves fuel. At first glance, this seems logical, but what happens is less obvious. The car spends more time trying to reach a stable speed. During this phase, the engine is still working, but not yet operating efficiently. A more balanced approach feels different. You press the accelerator with intention, firm enough to reach speed smoothly, but not aggressively. The vehicle reaches a comfortable pace sooner, and then the effort reduces. This shortens the time spent in that less efficient phase. Once the car settles into motion, maintaining speed requires less input, which helps reduce unnecessary fuel use. Habit number 11. Ignoring the engine's comfort range. Every vehicle has a natural rhythm. When the engine is under strain, you can often hear it or feel it through the car. When it is relaxed, the movement feels smoother. Many drivers do not notice this difference because attention stays on speed rather than how the car is responding. But the way the engine operates has a direct link to fuel use. Pressing harder than necessary or holding gears longer than needed can keep the engine working beyond its comfortable range. On the other hand, smoother input allows it to settle into a more efficient state. You do not need technical knowledge to sense this. A steady sound, a smooth pull, and minimal effort often indicate that the car is operating closer to its ideal condition. Habit number 10. Tire pressure drift over time. There is rarely a moment when tire pressure suddenly feels wrong. The change happens slowly, almost unnoticed. The car still moves the same way, but beneath that, the tires begin to create more resistance against the road. This resistance means the engine has to work slightly harder to keep the car moving forward. Checking tire pressure occasionally brings everything back into balance. It is a simple step, but it directly affects how easily the vehicle moves. When resistance is reduced, the engine does not need to compensate as much. The car rolls more freely, especially during longer drives. Habit number 9. Carrying unnoticed extra weight. Take a look inside most vehicles, and you will find items that have been there for days or even weeks, bags, tools, or things that were meant to be temporary. Individually, they do not seem important, but together, they add weight, and every time the car starts moving, the engine has to push that extra load forward. This becomes most noticeable in stop-and-go driving, where the car repeatedly starts from rest. A lighter vehicle requires less effort each time it moves. Clearing out what is not needed does not change the drive dramatically in one moment, but it reduces the repeated demand placed on the engine throughout the day. Habit number 8. Aerodynamic resistance from external attachment. At lower speeds, the weight of the vehicle plays a larger role, but as speed increases, air begins to resist movement more than anything else. Cars are shaped carefully so air can flow around them smoothly. When attachments like roof racks or carriers are added, that flow changes. Even when not in use, these attachments create disturbance. The engine then needs to work slightly harder just to maintain the same speed. Removing them when they are not needed allows the car to move through the air more naturally. Over distance, this makes a noticeable difference in how efficiently the vehicle travels. Habit number 7. Misusing windows and air conditioning. Comfort often comes down to a simple choice: windows open or air conditioning on. Many assume one option is always better than the other. At lower speeds, open windows allow air to pass through the cabin without extra load on the engine. In that situation, it works well. But as speed increases, open windows disrupt airflow around the car. This creates resistance, making it harder to maintain speed. In those conditions, using air conditioning with windows closed can actually be the more efficient option. The difference comes from how air interacts with the moving vehicle. Habit number 6. Unnecessary idling. A car sitting still with the engine running is still using fuel. This often happens without much thought, waiting briefly, pausing during a stop, or leaving the engine on out of habit. Modern vehicles are designed to begin driving almost immediately after starting. Long periods of waiting are usually not required. If a stop is expected to last longer than a moment, turning the engine off reduces fuel use during that time. When you start again, the transition back to driving is smooth. Recognizing when the engine is running without purpose is the key. Once noticed, it becomes easier to adjust. Habit number 5. Using higher octane fuel without need. Fuel options at the pump can sometimes create confusion. It is common to see higher octane fuel presented as a premium choice, which leads many drivers to assume it must be better for every vehicle. This belief often comes from the idea that a higher grade automatically improves performance or fuel efficiency. In reality, engines are designed to operate with a specific type of fuel based on how they are built. The octane rating mainly relates to how resistant the fuel is to early ignition under pressure. Some high-performance engines require higher octane fuel to function properly, but most everyday vehicles are designed to run efficiently on regular fuel. When a vehicle that does not require higher octane fuel uses it, the engine does not gain additional efficiency from it. The combustion process remains the same, and the expected performance does not change in normal driving conditions. The result is simply a higher cost at the fuel pump without a clear benefit in return. Following the fuel recommendation provided by the manufacturer helps keep the engine operating as intended. It ensures consistent performance and avoids unnecessary spending. Understanding this difference allows drivers to make a more informed choice without relying on assumptions about fuel quality. Habit number 4. Overlooking engine airflow. Inside every engine, fuel alone is not enough to produce efficient movement. It must combine with a steady flow of clean air in the right proportion. This balance allows the engine to burn fuel properly and operate smoothly under different driving conditions. The air filter supports this process quietly. Its role is to prevent dust, dirt, and debris from entering the engine while still allowing enough air to pass through. Over time, as the filter collects particles, the path for airflow becomes more restricted. This change does not happen suddenly, so it often goes unnoticed during regular driving. As airflow becomes limited, the engine management system adjusts to maintain performance. It compensates by altering how fuel is delivered, but this adjustment is not always perfectly efficient. As a result, the engine may begin to use slightly more fuel to achieve the same level of performance. Replacing the air filter at appropriate intervals helps restore proper airflow and balance. It allows the engine to return to more stable operating conditions without requiring any additional effort from the driver. While this is a small maintenance step, it supports the engine's ability to use fuel more effectively over time. Habit number 3. Fuel system sealing awareness. Modern vehicles use sealed fuel systems to reduce evaporation and fuel loss. A key part of this system is the fuel cap, which helps maintain that seal after refueling. Because it is used frequently, the cap can sometimes be left loose, or its seal may wear over time. When this happens, small amounts of fuel vapor can escape. This is not usually noticeable right away, but it can affect efficiency gradually and may even trigger minor system warnings. Making sure the fuel cap is tightened properly after each refill helps maintain the system as intended. It is a simple habit, but it supports consistent fuel use and prevents small inefficiencies from building up over time. Habit number 2. Running fuel too low frequently. Driving with a low fuel level is something many people do occasionally, especially when trying to extend time between refueling. Since the car continues to run normally, it can seem harmless. However, fuel does more than just power the engine. It also helps maintain stable conditions for components like the fuel pump. When levels stay low frequently, the system can draw in small amounts of air, and particles at the bottom of the tank are more likely to be disturbed. This may not cause immediate issues, but it can affect how smoothly the system operates over time. Keeping fuel at a moderate level helps maintain stability and supports more consistent performance without requiring any major change in driving habits. Habit number 1. The lane switching for speed behavior. In busy traffic, it often feels like one lane is moving slightly faster than the others. You notice a gap forming, or a line moving ahead, and the instinct is to switch lanes to keep progressing. Each lane change usually involves a short burst of acceleration to enter a gap, followed by braking as traffic adjusts. This sequence repeats throughout the drive, even though each individual movement feels small. Over time, these repeated changes interrupt the natural flow of movement. The engine is constantly being asked to increase and reduce effort, which gradually increases fuel use without delivering a meaningful time advantage. Eco-driving research has shown that smoother and more consistent driving patterns reduce fuel consumption, especially in conditions where frequent acceleration and braking occur. In most cases, traffic tends to balance out over distance. The time saved by switching lanes is often minimal, sometimes only a few moments. Remaining in one lane allows the vehicle to maintain a steadier pace. With fewer interruptions, the car preserves momentum more effectively, reducing unnecessary fuel use and creating a more consistent driving experience. The bottom line, when all of these patterns are viewed together, a clear idea begins to form. Fuel efficiency is not controlled by one single decision, but by how the car is driven, moment by moment. Each habit may appear small on its own, but when repeated across days, weeks, and months, their effect becomes more noticeable. The way you accelerate, slow down, and maintain speed shapes how the vehicle uses energy. This is not about driving differently in a dramatic way. It is about noticing what already happens and making slight adjustments where they naturally fit. As that awareness builds, driving becomes smoother, more predictable, and more consistent. If this kind of practical information is useful to you, you can consider subscribing for more content like this. And in the end, it comes down to something simple: understanding how small patterns shape the bigger result, one drive at a time.